Hello.
William's iPad.
Live.
Yeah, I know.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
All right. Bring this budget meeting to order for Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Roll call. Leslie Dyer is absent. Eric Gasper, myself, Pam Alley, Andy Dorr, town manager. Elizabeth Bunker, Debbie Town Clerk taking notes.
And Jake Thompson's supposed to be absent.
And Jake Thompson is also absent. All right. Thank you. Do we have any additions, subtractions to the agenda?
I think we did law enforcement last time. I might have set this one up earlier.
Okay.
We did. So we'll just take that one off.
All right.
And we have the two just quick new business grant. If you want to consider authorizing grant submittals, we have two of them.
Okay, but that's on the
That's
agenda,
cool.
right? Yeah, so. Okay, so we'll remove 5A. I move we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? All right. Number 3, approve and sign treasurer's warrant number 38. Second. All those in favor? All right. Number 4, speakers from the floor. Seeing none. We want to do first, or do we want to go right into the budget?
Do the
Up to you.
business if you want.
You're the
You get it done and then we'll just have a,
Is
The new
Gabe on
business.
just for the
new business.
community action grant? We're gonna go to 6, new business. A community action grant.
So this is the piece Gabe was working on. I thought the board had talked about and kind of approved, maybe it was just in concept, but the $50,000
Yeah, I thought we had.
grant to put towards the downtown engineering work.
Yeah.
I just didn't notice it in the minutes, and so the deadline to apply is tonight at midnight, and so to get it on the record, revisit that, just put together the request to submit.
Yeah, I read through the letter. I didn't read through everything, but I believe we've discussed this before. If we hadn't, I make a motion, we approve the application for the community action grant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Also a couple things we just signed tonight, if they're gonna go scan back to her.
Okay. Just remind me before I leave, I'll sign them. Okay. 6B ship grant.
Yeah, so this is part of the downtown project and request for 250,000 to come from the ship grant program for the boat ramps downtown.
Do you need us to make a motion?
Yeah, so this is a letter of intent. We have the board's authorization to apply for this grant. It'll cover this letter of intent, and then once we get ready to submit the actual application, if you make the motion to authorize submitting the grant for the ship grant. and that should cover it.
Okay.
What's the responsibility of the town on this project?
Financial responsibility.
Yes.
So it's a 50, well, generally 50/50, but the state's willing to fund up to 250,000. And so we're proposing that it would be 253,600 based on the estimates the town would put in.
And the justification for the project?
The justification for the project is the current condition of the boat launches and the expectation to continue to use them.
They're pretty much to the point of,
They're in bad shape.
then they have been for years now.
Yep.
We've band-aided them for several years now, but
Tourist or?
Everybody.
it's not just, it's fishermen, tourists.
Yep.
It's pretty widely used.
Is it reasonable to expect a fee for use on something like that?
I can't imagine how we
We have it in the past, and I'm sure we would run up against some opposition to that, but that doesn't mean the town couldn't propose it.
I don't know how you charge.
The
to
real,
use them.
the real trouble with charging fees, in concept, as we were talking about earlier, charging for a tie-up, for example, at the
Yep.
floats, that does make sense.
I think it.
But it, you have to have somebody there,
Right.
a lot. you know, and that's gonna be, which is gonna cost quite a bit of money as well.
Well, I don't think that a random person coming in is gonna do it. Someone who has spec a permanent spot there, that's a sticker, and there's a bolt there without the sticker in a period of time, you know, there's a fine associated with it.
You have to have that, you'll have to have somebody there policing the
No,
float.
you just check periodically and then go from there.
If it's,
Like I said, I like the sound of it in theory.
As we could said, what, you're gonna spend $60,000, but $12,000 worth.
Right, it's
That's
the
what
cost,
camera's for.
it's the cost benefit.
So someone's got to monitor cameras, you got a part-time person that's lobstering,
Right,
the other guy's off here and there, so until you are willing to step up to the plate and go full bore.
or get a volunteer to volunteer all their time.
I just think it's worth exploring.
Yeah,
it.
someone
I think they
retired,
probably did.
someone retired.
Yeah.
No, I'm not opposed to exploring it for sure. It's just, we run into issues of enforcement even with the current, like, even with the current, permitting system we have for the tie-ups, for the punts, right? We're supposed to have, everyone's supposed to have a permit down at the ferry,
Everyone's supposed to be registered.
registered and have a permit.
There's a,
and
there's a
that's
state
not
requirement that
happening.
if it has a motor attached, I believe it has. Then we went a step further and we use just a rowboat. You have to have a, just a special permit through the town, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
That's random checking. If it doesn't get paid, gets confiscated.
Confiscated, whoa. Now that's a whole nother ballgame. I don't think we can do that.
if it,
I'm liking your, I'm liking your gun go attitude.
all right.
Maybe you'd like to have the job, Dawn.
Back to the ship grant. I move, we approve. Is it, you were gonna submit it, the town? Well,
just that the town submit, yeah.
I move that we have the town submit an application for the ship grant.
Yeah. The intention is to utilize the harbor reserve as matching funds.
Yes. So submit an application for the ship grant for the $250,000 request. The town will match the remaining $252,600. That
From the harbor reserve.
from the harbor reserve, excuse me.
I'll
The matching
second
fund.
that.
All right, does that make sense?
Yes.
Everyone got that? All right.
You took care of the second, another motion later on. You really did. As
All right, all those in favor? Okay,
long as you got written down, all that got written down there, you took
you
care
get
of
all
that.
that, Lizzie?
I think I got,
Okay, thank you.
I
all
got
right.
the gist of it.
We will move back to 5, the budget workshop, 5B fire.
All righty.
Back to the fun part, oh, there's a right part. number.
I do have, side note, I do have the contract for Knox County to sign. That wasn't on the agenda
We'll do it at our,
in the members.
Yeah, we'll address it here in Port Town Manager members.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, some of the goals here, similar to the previous few years, I mean, in terms of trying to retain, train current to interior firefighters or to retain, attract new volunteers to then be trained as firefighters or interior firefighters. Continue the purchase of some of the radios. The expectation is still that the digital radios will be coming in the near future. So continuing to start to slowly purchase the digital made ready ones.
I don't know if that was supposed to get deleted or not.
I said I'd leave it in just to be smart.
See if,
To make it through the year.
see if we're paying attention.
Budget building is always a challenging time. Longer term, some of the equipment needs a little bit longer term, looking at, again, continuing the purchase of some of these digital made ready radios. Put an estimated cost there for the 8 mobile and 12 portable, just so you have a sense of what's coming. Of course, we got a couple of trucks to think about in the next few years. The possibility of a 3,000 with the KW generator. Continuing to replace hose as that ages out.
So is this pushing that new fire engine to not this fiscal year, but the next one? Because we're replacing engine 4, that's the oldest one, right?
E4 is one that we were expecting to, I mean, we got to figure out the timing of the extension of that bay.
Yep.
But the E4 is the next one to be replaced. And I think that's got 2022 to 2025. And so the expectation is to do that. Somehow line that up with when the extension will be done.
Okay.
That one is potentially sometime during next fiscal year or the following fiscal year. We've got to figure out how and when we're going to get that addition done before you get the truck in there. So.
Right.
That'd be good, probably good to do it that way. Cart before the horse.
Right.
Is that generator, is that grant we were talking about the other night, would that be eligible for that, Andy?
It might be. I think it might be. I know the one for this facility is one that we're going to try to apply for. I think the school's going to try to apply for one for their building too.
Right.
But we can keep it in mind. They come up with those sometimes annually. There's money available.
Mhm.
Overall, kind of the summary of that department, that budget, as presented, my request shows it being up 10% from last year, or 14,781. About 5,000 of the 14,000, as I presented it, is in the approved wage increase that the board had in February. An additional cost in raising the crew wages, another 3,000 for the whole crew. Insurance cost up a little bit with the proposal to go to 100% is another 1,000. And then the possibility for my proposed retirement match would be another 3,000. So 5, 8, 9, 3. So 12 of the 14,000 is, as I presented it, is in either the approved wages or the proposed benefits. Just as a heads up on that as we go through this. The department column does not reflect the change in the benefits or the insurance or retirement increases as I have in my column. So that's the major difference there, and that brings it down by 4,000. So that leaves the $10,000 increase being spread across some of the just various lines there. 5,000 of it again being wage increase. So any of those particular pages you want to jump into or know more about? Not much revenue generation for the fire department.
You think you should put more in for gas and diesel where it's
Mm.
gone up so much?
It might go down.
Yeah.
Not this year.
I have not gone back through the budget to adjust the estimated fuel price that we had walked into it with. Something that the board wants to let me know a number to put it in for, we can do that, or if it stays high, we have to cut
Well, so far,
more.
year to date, when is that year? This,
Through December 31st. All that column for year to date was. was done
yeah,
as of
that's at halfway.
Right.
And which was just a squeak over half of the total allotment. And by then, gas prices had by December, things had shitty.
Gone up that much yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And oil at $112, it's not going down.
Not anytime soon, no.
Well over.
Well, I mean,
How much more do we
if you,
need?
if you put another $1,000 in there, would that probably more than cover?
I mean, if you did 10% of that line right there, that's only about $300. So 1,000 would be.
So we estimate,
would be over that.
Yeah, that'd be a lot, that should give you plenty of leeway, I think.
If you assume that oil is gonna, fuel oil is gonna double, stay there, you kind of, probably a reasonable starting point.
so we estimate the gallonage is 350 gallons for gas throughout the year and 225 gallons for diesel fuel for the year.
So what price would you use on gasoline and diesel fuel?
$4 a gallon for gas and $3.75 a gallon for diesel.
So gas now is almost 5.
Yeah, let's say if you added $1 to each of those prices,
Yeah.
and that was 250, 550 gallons, is that what you said? Between the two.
575.
And I think diesel is around 5 or 5 something, fuel oil. 550.
Probably what it was the last time, right?
80.
Out here, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But even the truck stops down south, they're looking at close to $6 now. The diesel fuel fund, to get the road tax and all that stuff on it,
Right.
if you don't have on. You know. I figure $6 diesel for the year.
Well, July 1st through June of next year.
Mhm.
I mean, I hope not, but yeah, what could you point at right now to say it's gonna go down?
Right. Unless you bought all the electric vehicles. and you afford it.
It's just that's not gonna happen.
That would fix the
Well,
budget.
we have to spend some money.
I have my house wired for it.
Are you?
Yep.
That's. My lease is up next year and I'm looking at getting an electric one, but we'll see. Anyway, off topic. Well, if we're gonna do it for this, we're else in the budget, we have to go back through. I mean, and if we have to go back through and cut things, so it's gonna make it even more difficult, but it is a reality. We can't assume that gas is gonna be $3.75 and $4.
Is there a
Diesel
number?
and gas.
Is there a number you want me to go back through with?
Well, yeah, broad picture, why don't you just add $1.25 to each gallon? From what you, from what you did budget for
That puts
currently.
Diesel at 5.
That's sick.
There
Five,
will
sorry.
be, I mean, it's already dipping right now as we speak,
You want gasoline?
yeah. And crude in general is
Crude
dipping.
just went up to $1.12 just.
There's no way we can
112,
know for
brother.
certain
I
how
mean-
what it's gonna do. It's crazy. That's like trying to predict the weather next week. You just don't know what it's gonna do.
Maybe we'll just have nuclear war.
I pushed that from this one.
So maybe to add that $1.25 per gallon.
Yeah, I agree, though. We probably should. I think we're gonna have to increase that because
Mhm.
And,
is,
you know, and I don't want to cut from a different line, just, but you can look at the total percentage of the budget of that. Propose either 157 or 152. And even if you add that $1.25 a gallon for an estimated usage, and then you, for some reason, you do go over because the price got more expensive somewhere else, chances are the money won't get spent on something else.
Well, I think though that, your point earlier is correct. It's not just fires. If you look at the overall town expenditure on fuel.
Yeah.
You ought to hedge it.
we're gonna have to go back through each line where there's gas and oil.
Well, my point is that in this, and right here in fire, and in any of these lines, what we spend on gas and oil is a small percentage of each department. So
Mhm.
if you, like I said, go up $1.25.
Yeah.
And if you're off a little bit, chances are somewhere in this overall line, you won't have spent that money. And hopefully you don't have to have a special town meeting for $500 next May.
Personally, I'm more concerned about the 10% on wages.
Well,
And two, if you do have to go back town meeting, why answer the question Well, how
Yeah.
come you only put $3.75 a
Right.
gallon, where if you make this jump,
Yeah.
you say, well, we did the best guess and went this much.
Right,
So that somebody doesn't say, well, what were you,
Right.
save your bucks.
Would
And
you like
that's
a
a pretty
formal,
good
would you like a
forecast
formal
on-
motion,
on-
Andy?
on-
around that?
on oil prices.
hmm,
There's good forecasting on oil prices. I mean, that could- numbers could be obtained.
right, but there's also a lot of speculation done on people
But
trying
you
to
have-
drive up
all
the
I'm saying
futures.
is you have basis for the decision.
Yes, no, I think we're all in agreement that we should increase it just because, I mean, we've all seen it at the pump. It's gone up. And it's not like oil companies are gonna look to lower it anytime soon. They're making
It's a
record
world
profits,
market,
so,
and it's-
yeah. The supply is not there, the demand's up, I get it. It's,
and the supply is down. And
Yes.
it'll be down further. It's
supply,
rougher.
supply is still down since the pandemic. They ratcheted it back and they haven't increased it, so yeah, we're all being squeezed. All right. Do you need a motion on that? All right. Well, is there anything that jumps out to anyone here where we could cut back now, since we're gonna have to increase that line?
Well, so the big, most of the increase without the increase in gas and oil
I mean, it's still
is from wages and proposed benefits. And,
Mhm.
before too much longer, before we probably do anything, once we start voting, it might be wise for us to decide what, if we're going to increase benefits and wages
Mhm.
and by how much. And that way you can set a standard across the board right off the bat.
Well, I think,
That in my mind, that would be the most important thing to vote on first,
yes,
when we start to vote.
but we've already agreed that salaries, we already voted on that. We already increased the salaries, right?
But yes. we
So-
already- yeah.
And there was no proposed change in this particular iteration of the budget because of the proposal in consideration for, well, taking that into consideration. But for the proposal for the increase in benefits as like an,
The benefits, the only piece that hasn't been nailed down yet, right? So that's where I think we're gonna have to, we're probably not gonna be able to give both this year, I feel like. At least that's the way it's looking.
yeah, it'd probably be helpful to go through and figure out what the overall proposed budget is, how it's different from last year, and if there's a recommendation from the budget committee or the board for it needs to go down by a certain percentage or to a certain dollar amount, then at least we know what we're working with, and we can go back and try and find ways to get to that number.
All right, so should we do that? I feel like we should do that now. It'll make this process easier.
Decide.
The overall budget, we feel we should limit the increase, right? Because right now we're at, what was the total increase?
The only way, there is an output for a bigger increase, and that depends on what with all the building going on in the island, there's going to be an increase in property tax. How much is that going to represent?
Right,
Does that mean the
Increase in new value. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
Not only that, but new building. I mean, there's a huge number of buildings,
Right.
I'm guessing that 15 or 20 buildings that have been constructed this year are in progress for the last year and a half.
Right.
So 7.6 is proposed,
So,
as everything stands right now.
what I presented for expenditure, right? So when we started the first meeting we had, the proposed expenditures my column was up 10.16%. And the department column was 6.82%. That's the expenditure. So if we go to that first page you have a chance to see what revenue offsets there are and what that looked like. So when you consider the revenue with my column at 10%, the revenue offsets bring it down to 7.6%.
right. So that's the increase to taxation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to put that same revenue stream potentially under the department column as it was presented at 6% instead of 10%, and use the same revenue offsets, that number would be, the tax increase would be presumably 4% lower. You'd be looking at 3 to 4% increase instead of 7.6. I mean, not knowing if there's a percent increase, or again, that you want us to aim for, we can be better informed on how you want to, we can come back with.
Well,
a-
right now you were using 10%.
In this particular presentation right here, yeah, I used the numbers I had in my column, in my presentation for this page. It was just shy of $200,000 increase on the taxation to be raised.
But again, you know, that number, you know, should not exceed 6.5, 7%.
Just-
My estimation.
Just waiting for the budget committee or the select board to give the direction. So far, just one comment, but I'm happy to have that if that's how we want to, we haven't done that before, so I'm happy to have that if that's what we want to set.
So the largest from tax commitment is the debt service, system debt service.
Yeah.
17%.
This is not offset by.
Are quite a bit of money.
Yes. Yes.
And capital projects is 11.
Mhm.
And administration's at 10.2.
Of tax commitments, 13% though. I'm looking over one more.
Oh, you're looking at the other column, okay.
Well, without saying a number right now, I don't want to do that quite yet because my mind can't even work that, for math, can't even work that well anyway. But what I would say is that as far as capital projects go and proposed capital projects, you know, in the last several years, we built a new town garage, we replaced a bridge. Obviously, we've put a significant sum of money towards downtown, and that's about to come to fruition. You know, so we can look at the community and say, you know, we've put a lot into supporting, you know, the overall needs that we have. And, you know, you're seeing your bang for your buck very clearly. But, and the last one, I think, is a major paving project, because I think we're at the point now with Round the Island Road, North Haven Road, you know, that there really is nothing left. If I don't see waiting another year on that, but that would be the only thing. If, you know, I would say I'd put one capital project in, big capital project in for new debt service, and that would be,
Well, we've still got the transfer station.
but that's already been committed.
I know it's been committed, but we don't have it. It's not part of the debt service yet.
The payment is.
The payment isn't.
The first payment will come due this fall.
Well, it's in this budget.
Yeah, it'll come, yeah.
We haven't bonded it out yet.
We haven't, but
Right.
the payment's budgeted in the FY
Yeah.
23
Okay.
budget.
First payment will come due this fall sometime, presumably.
Transportation,
Transfer station.
or transportation.
Yes.
Forgot all about the transfer station. So like I said, we've, you know, people can go around and say, well, my tax dollars went to this, and this, you know, it's very obvious where it went.
There should be I don't know how large of an increase, but there'll be an increase in the state revenue sharing as the states restored that to the 5% that the law expected it to be at. And first time in quite a while, it's gonna be at 5% next year. So that helps offset. Homestead, I don't think there's a change in the homestead exemption in terms of the value of that. It's a pretty good reimbursement there.
Right there, can you really quickly grab a year to date, like as in like maybe not today, but pretty recently, what we've collected so far for excise tax for vehicle registration?
Right now,
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Can't.
I wasn't sure if it, I wasn't sure quickly yet.
I'll go in the other room and do it if turn the computers back on.
Well, I mean, so I'm just looking at the $300,000. I'm really jumping around right now. Sorry, everybody. But 300, we last 2 years, we've done $300,000.
I think through February, we were, I want to say we were near 270.
In February.
Already.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the one that the board's generally kind of held back on not knowing, if you're trying to guess what the new vehicle market will look like 18 months out.
right, and yeah,
In that one, we generally budgeted well low. I think the average revenue for that for the last few years has been close to like 320.
mhm,
And I think we budgeted 300,000 for this
yeah,
year.
and same as the year previous.
Right.
And we went up from 275. Maybe there'll be less new vehicles because there's a vehicle shortage, of course. But I mean, honestly, the way things are right now, trying to plan ahead 6 months is our town is even gonna be warm in 6 months. It's basically
Maybe in the war with China or Russia.
cross.
We've talked about raising fees for CEO
Mhm.
and LPI. 21.5, which is a little bit less than half. So that number, I think when we talked at the last meeting, would go up a little bit more potentially. That's an increase of 5,000 or 6,000, I think, from this year.
You're gonna look for cut, look at the biggies.
Mhm.
Don't start with the little ones. That's where the money's in the big ones.
Right, well, again, it comes, we've already approved the wage increase, so it comes back to the benefits. I don't believe we can do both. If we do go to 100% on medical, that does give people money back in their paycheck. I'm inclined to give them the retirement over that, but then again, not everyone contributes to it, so.
Mm,
Like I said, I think before we even talk about a number for percent, I think we need to decide how are we going to pay our employees in the next fiscal year.
That's
And I
what I'm
think
trying
that's,
to.
yeah, I
So-
think that's. And I don't know if that's tonight's discussion or not, but after all, we're still in an overview right now. We haven't even gone through every. But I think before you really get too serious about voting on anything, you're gonna have to decide that.
Yeah, I proposed that, I think, the first meeting, to look at that, and we wanted to wait.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I would recommend that you continue to go through the whole budget, get a better sense of your bearings of what's being requested, and come back with, after you see that full dollar amount as you have on this screen, a better sense of what's being asked for,
I
come back
agree.
with a number or a percent increase that you're willing to absorb for next year. And then let us go back to the departments and find ways to find that way to make that number.
I agree with you. I think we should complete the overview at the very least. which
All
we
right.
haven't done.
I think we can find ways to get it closer to what I'm hearing is more palatable.
mhm.
Are we on track to complete this overview by next week? Because then we have to have a finalized budget pretty soon.
We get through today, I think we have, I believe, Public Works and capital projects primarily left.
Yeah.
When we finalize the town warrant, I mean, we really have till the end of April. It's just a matter of the timeline you guys set out to have it done in the beginning of April. Which we can still do. I mean,
I'm just
maybe
saying,
off a week.
we get the first 2 weeks of April, I'm gonna be hard pressed to make a 5 o'clock budget meeting. So let's move on, let's continue on, let's get through the review, and then we'll circle back on when we finalize everything. All right, are there any more questions on fire? All right, let's move on to CEMS. Well, it says EMS here.
Yeah, I know. I was I say I've never seen that tab before in my life.
Yeah, you had me looking. Thank you, Eric.
So similarly, gonna get the two columns, the benefit and the retirement, insurance and retirement differ, just to show the difference there. It's only the one position there that has the insurance and retirement. The wage line up 19,000 roughly. We'll get into what that is. The service fees up a little bit. And the rest of it, pretty close to what it was. A small decrease in the patient transport by about 4,000. On this one, anticipating the need to increase the fee schedule.
We approved,
We
we're gonna go back
presented it
over that,
a
right?
draft. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pat and I still need to go through that a little closer. I'm just getting into the wages. On this page, there's a few different things. There's the director's position. And then there's crew wages for the volunteers that are on call. They get paid a dollar amount based on their license level to be on the calls. And then we've provided an on-call stipend for some time. So there's a proposal. Again, we have the increase in the $2.50. Now the number of hours logged by the crew is presented here as roughly a $20,000 payment. So there's not a huge increase in that. That was a $2,400 increase from last year with the $2.50 increase. The on-call stipend, however, is a bigger jump. I think that the on-call stipends are up almost 14,000. We're trying to find ways to present and attract and have more volunteer participation. It's one of those services no one else is coming, so we're trying to find ways to get more people to sign up, have more people sign up to be trained, and then sign up to be on call. In past and talking with crew, primarily through Pat and Carrie before that, it was, what can we do to make sure folks are available? There's 3 that are on a shift, 12-hour shift usually. And there's up to 3 that can be on a shift. And so with daytime, we don't have that many shifts open because Mark and the ambulance director, or Pat in this case, for now, is fill those daytime weekday shifts. So you're left with weekends and after hours on weekdays. And so with an increase from $10 to $15 an hour for the Monday through Thursday nights, and then it was $20. It is currently $20 a shift for the Friday night through the weekend and holidays. And the proposal to consider increasing that to $15 and $30, and then having some daytime during the week daytime shifts. It's 3 shifts per week. That is what was proposed. Just acknowledging that sometimes the fire chief or the ambulance director might be off island doing something. We've got to backfill that. So in my column, it's a $33,000 increase in total for this department, and right now 14,000 of that line and increases on-call stipend, another 2,400 in the crew wage. The ambulance director's position doesn't change much because that's not currently filled to that capacity yet.
So we're obviously way down in actual spend because we haven't had an ambulance director.
We're paying an interim director, but not nearly as much. We're not paying for the insurance and the retirement.
Right.
Because we wouldn't see the retirement spent yet anyways. The other one that we tend to be well unspent on is this transport cost. You see in the last few years, last couple of years, we've been under 50,000 spent at the end of the year for transport cost. We average about 200 calls a year. We can't know for certain how they're going to leave the island. They need to leave the island, but we assume on average about half of those leave the island. So kind of broke down estimate on how we transport, and so estimating 72 transports by plane 20 by the ferry service during the day, 3 night runs.
Is that 850 by plane? Is that on the updated cost that they?
That is not. I went
They
back.
just,
I
they
went
just
back and-
increased that as of March.
Right.
Mhm.
I went
Whatever.
back and did that to $4,680 to go up to the current rate for those for 72
It's
trips.
almost 66,000.
So I wouldn't, looking at what we've actually spent the last few years, I was gonna put that back in on my paper here and actually crossed it back out just based on what we've spent in the last few years. I mean, it is so hard to know. I mean, if someone goes by Life Flight, that's not a transport fee that we pay. We have had recently a couple of private vessels transport people, and we've reimbursed for fuel. And that's not something I've picked up in here, but I think generally it works out. When we look at just the uncertainty of how we have to plan for this, we just don't know how we're going to transport people. So it's just based on averages in the last few years. We've been fortunate to avoid when someone is taken over by plane, some other service has to meet the plane when it gets to Rockland or Owl's Head and transport them to the hospital. A few years ago, we'd gotten a pretty sizable bill from Rockland. Northeast Ambulance Service started to consider a transport fee as well. That's a direct bill to us as well as a patient bill. And then we ended up working out an agreement with South Thomaston that we can call them, and there's a cost associated with that if they need to call in a medic from another service. So we've primarily utilized South Thomaston service to transport from the hospital, and you can see at the time, which was a year ago, what those rates were looking like.
Does private insurance or Medicare make a contribution to this?
Insurance reimbursements. What did we get insurance payments. We do pay a billing company, and they collect, I think it's 8% of the funds collected. They keep 8%, but they handle all the billing for us. Let's go back to the front page. Yeah, we estimated 75,000 in ambulance fee revenues billing this current year, and for the year proposed, adjusting the rates to try and bring in 82,500.
So the charge in our budget then is in addition to what we collect from insurance.
That'd be offset number.
Charge in the budget is the direct cost we incur, and then we bill depending on the type of run it is and how they were transported. We bill the patient. In most, I can't remember the breakdown of those that have insurance and those that are private pay, but they're billed nonetheless. If they have an insurance company, we're more likely to get payment generally. If it's private pay, it's not always the case. We do have a collection policy that will, after so many attempts, they'll send it to collection. And then after that, it's a matter of the board taking up the matter to either take it to claims court or write it off. Generally, in the past, it's been written off in considerable lump sums.
It's been a while since we've done it, but yeah. It's been a while since we have done it, but it's been significant sums of money.
Well, I'm just curious whether the Medicare or health insurance individual before Medicare would actually cover a good part of the transportation part of the medical benefit.
Yeah, the transportation is tricky. We do get reimbursed, but we have to pay up front.
Yeah.
And so we've got to front that expense in because of a direct bill for it, and we hope to get it back. I mean, by law, Medicare will not pay for boat transport. It's not a billable expense by federal law. Main Care will generally pay for the ferry boat.
Yeah.
Thankfully, state service and state insurance.
But the
So
bigger cost is the plane.
the plane.
Life Flight's not billed to us, right?
Right, yeah, the transport by fixed wing, that costs us $915 today
But is
to
that-
transport someone.
Is that covered under Medicare or private insurance?
Insurance, it's challenging. I think they're generally able to get at least some of it back. And so I say challenging because sometimes patients get faced with and get faced with a denial initially because it wasn't pre-approved.
Right.
Because, so so the medical center here is our terminating facility. And so a lot of times if we terminate with the medical center, we need to have I believe there's a transport and a transfer. I can't remember which, but if it comes up as one or the other, some insurance companies kind of flag that and say, well, it wasn't pre-approved. If you're doing I believe a transfer. Okay, which one of those?
It's
it
gotta
is.
be, you're right, it's gotta be transferred.
It's got to be pre-approved, and so you can submit the justification and the reason in the patient's record as to why that was, and the decision from the medical control or provider at the medical center as to why that happened. But then it's up to the patient and their insurance company to advocate for that to happen. So we were in a challenging situation with the island logistics and how the billing's set up. I know on North Haven, last I knew on North Haven, they didn't bill for anything, but I believe the ferry bill, if there was one. A lot of their costs are just generated, covered through taxation.
So at the end of the day, how much are we typically out of pocket on these?
Well, this year's budget was a $216,000 budgeted amount, and we estimated to bring in 75,000 in revenue. Part of the in figuring the pricing, we've got to stay. So Medicare is gonna pre-approve for this type of call. Here's what they're willing to pay for this type of transport. If there's a fixed wing transport, here's what they'll pay. If there's a rotary wing transport, here's what they're willing to pay. And so if you charge a fee that's twice what the Medicare rate's willing to pay, Medicare's still only going to pay, what they're by law are allowed to bill, to cover. Private insurance companies might pay more, might pay the full amount, but they kind of use that Medicare rate as kind of a benchmark for what they're willing to pay. And our costs are higher than.
Maybe we should negotiate for us.
What's
Now, there's a rumor that the medical center wants to charge for the town for a premium for being on call at night and stuff. Is that any basis for that, or is that just a rumor?
We have not had that as a request yet.
I just heard that rumor too, and I dismissed it out of hand.
I'm just, I've heard it, and I didn't know if there's any truth. That's why I'm asking.
Well, we are in the budget building process, so if that was a request, presumably that's coming very quickly, I guess, to make sure it's considered. Otherwise, I don't know how we pay for that if the budget's already approved.
What's the big increase in uniforms? We just have to go back and buy some new ones.
They haven't, as you can see, for a little while bought shirts. They usually have polos, winter gear. If they're on the call, they got to make sure they have the right equipment and the right clothing to represent the service. So it's been a few years since we've bought stuff for the budget. So I put that amount in there to make sure that we can buy polos and if they need to replace the jackets, if they're out in the service in the winter time. Have it.
Okay. And there's the big difference in insurance between department and manager.
That's
Just the change.
I believe my column represented 75% to family,
With dependent.
to a family plan cost, and then the department column is 100% of a single employee cost. You can go to, I got more detail on that page.
Have we heard any more from the potential candidate?
No, we have, so we're working towards an island, come out to the island here soon. And that was more of a placehold, just not knowing what, just for the budget's sake, a placehold for what we might have to consider, just to show you the most it might be under what I had proposed.
Yeah.
And that's for the, I mean, we do have the opportunity to enroll employees in and offer on up to 2 other plan options. And I was talking with our benefit manager about some of the other plan options they have. HSAs are not something that we would qualify, or the employees would qualify for with the plan options offered. Had something to do with
The deductible's not high enough.
deductibles. I can't remember if it was deductibles or I think it's what it was.
It's because it's basically if you have a high deductible
Right.
health plan,
I
then
think
you can apply for an HSA.
I think the highest deductible through the 5 plan options they have for a single or an employee is $2,500. And then the premium cost per month for that plan option, I think for the single employee, I think was like $840 a month. As opposed to the, I think we're at 1,100 bucks a month roughly for one we're enrolled in now.
For the 75%. Like it's $1,100, the town pays 75% of that.
Yeah, so these numbers here reflect the current plan option that we're enrolled in. So one thing I was, going to potentially consider it, and so when I talked with them, HSA is not a possibility with the current plan options that are through this company because of that. HRAs are a possibility, and so that's an employer health.
Yeah, what is the RF?
Health reimbursement account, I think.
Okay.
And so the employer could determine what amount they're willing to reimburse the employee for medical expenses. And that can go towards their deductibles. The employees just submit their payment, the receipts basically for those payments to the town. If you want to set an HSA up and say, hey, we're willing to give $2,000 a year or $1,000 a year, we could set a same threshold for an
Something like-
HRA.
okay. Yeah.
The difference is the HSA goes with the employee,
Right.
it's theirs, and the HRA stays with the town, the employer.
Right.
At the end of the year if it's not
The
used.
HSA can be invested in different funds that can grow.
So there would be a way to help contribute, or offset that higher deductible. One thought was perhaps we might want to offer another plan option in case employees, there might be an employee that says, hey, I'm generally healthy. I don't realize the full value of the current plan that we're in. I'd like to enroll in the lesser cost plan and take the chance that I don't need to pay the deductible
Right.
that high amount.
Right.
Lowering the employer cost, increasing the take home pay for the employee.
Yeah,
$300 a month. But you could lock in, if there's an amount that the town's willing to provide, you kind of can look at what that, say, if we're willing to provide, say, $14,000 per employee for health insurance. They can take that and say, okay, I'll put 14,000 towards one of the other 3 dependent options here that I, depending on their situation. They can enroll in a lower higher deductible plan. And maybe the town's willing to say, hey, we're still going to carry that $14,000 value. We'll just kind of put some of that difference into the HRA for you if you want to enroll in that lower, and so that you can kind of cap what that health insurance contribution cost is to the, for the employer.
Right.
If you want to look at it that way.
Another meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
I was trying to, I've been running the numbers and looking at that. I haven't come up with a great way to visualize or present it. Because
It
but
sounds like most of our employees now don't have a dependent, right? That's what you said in the previous meeting. They wouldn't use it. Even if they do, their spouse or whoever is also an employee, so they already have it.
right, we
Correct.
have, yeah, there'll be one case where currently there's 2 that are we're kind of grandfathered when the town made the
Right.
change years ago
Right.
to still have dependent coverage. Whatever we have for future employees, or the ability, and again, the proposal to look at this is a way to kind of
Attract.
attract
Yeah.
people into the positions that we have empty. That was the, and to keep the ones we have that might have dependents. I know we have 2 others now, right now that have dependents.
I mean, if we offer a plan that has a higher deductible that would qualify for HSA, it automatically lowers the cost to the employer and the employee. And if you're young and even as a family healthy, like my family doesn't, we don't go through our deductible each year. I know each person and family is different, but to me, that would be an attractive option, but I mean, that would be a way of lowering some of these insurance costs, but also providing another benefit to our employees. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
We gotta look at what you'd be giving up. I mean, when you say HSA, do you mean HSA or
HSA, I
HRA?
mean, HSA,
So we'd have to go and shop a different insurance company.
yeah.
You'd have to look at what the employees would be giving up.
So they did, so
Because
our
it is a
current
great
provider doesn't
plan.
even have that option, even if you switch to a higher deductible plan.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Honestly, I think I'd say, spitballing for as far as employee benefits go, just provide 100% to the employee and increase from 85% and call it good. I mean, I'd love to give them more, but
I know.
I think that's I think that's fair.
What did you just suggest? Do the 100% for the employee?
100% to the employee. That would be the increase that
And then nothing changes on the retirement.
nothing changes on retirement, nothing
Yep.
changes on,
Depending.
the other, no.
Something to think about, and if that's something you want me to put back through once we kind of get through some of this and kind of look back on the changes you want to have.
Yeah, I mean, let's continue on with the review, but we're gonna have to have some scenarios, I guess, that show us if we do this. It comes down by this, or
An if then statement.
basically, yeah. All right, are there any more questions on ambulance? Let's move on to D, public safety building. We need a brand new one, right?
No.
Come on, why not?
Don't get me wrong, if you have more space, it'd be full, but I have not heard that there's a need for that. There is a need, however, to address the bay. And so the estimated cost we got to modify or extend the one bay to accommodate replacement vehicle is $137,000. We are still looking back, trying to look at ways that can come down. That includes some contingency, not knowing there's, like the example of having to move the water line, the main water line, and fill up inside the bay, inside that corner there. We could avoid having to move that. That'd be probably, I think that was like a $5,000 or $10,000 cost.
We already need to increase the size of this thing. We just had it built, like.
Oh, no, it's old, it's more than 10 years old. It's like 2007, 2008.
The fire department?
No,
No,
public safety. Oh,
Sorry, public
I
safety.
was-
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of public works.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no.
Completely, I'm
No, no, no.
completely wrong. Completely
I thought-
wrong.
and I thought we were talking- I
Sorry.
thought you were just talking
Sorry.
about the,
My
The
fault.
ambulance
Downtown.
bay?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, all right.
No, this is
I'm
for
there.
that, so when you walk into the, where the office is, the front office is, there's that pass door. That first door on the left for the fire trucks, that one's got the boiler room behind it. So we still have the option if you can custom build a truck. But a brand new engine, I think they said right now, you might as well figure $350,000 to $400,000 for a new engine. And if you got to custom build it,
It's like
you said you
600.
can easily add another $100,000 to that
Right.
by saying you want to custom build it. So you're pushing $500,000 for a new custom built truck that'll last you 30 plus years in that space, and let it be an issue 30 years from now. And we wanted to know what was the cost to do an extension, which would allow you to consider a good used one, and you feel you could buy a good used one, a reliable used one for in the ballpark of like 275, 250. If you add that to the cost of modifying the bay, You're at 380. A little over 400,000, so you're in the long run, I mean, you're cutting down on the useful life of it. By not having it new, but you're over $100,000 less by doing the addition and buying a used one.
So where's that 137? Is it not here? Is it in a different?
It'd have to
line?
be,
Or is it not?
it'd have to be in a warrant article, presumably to take a loan out, unless we can fundraise that quickly.
So it's not in this budget proposal. This
It's
is
not.
something we want to have done this fiscal
Right.
year or part of this fiscal year. Okay.
Well, we'd look to do it in next fiscal, in fiscal year 23, the one we're planning for.
But it wouldn't be part of the budget.
I don't think I included it because I wouldn't anticipate a first year's payment. I don't think
Okay.
there'd be some small fees to deal with the loan
So-
closing.
We either pay for a custom built brand new one, which lasts 30 years, or we extend the bay so we can get a used one, which would last us how many?
Depends on how
Depends
old
on
it
how old
is.
and the
Yeah.
use and all that.
Is there no other of the trucks are there now that they can't? Nothing else will fit in there except that one,
Well, you could fit the forestry truck could fit in there, but then no other truck will fit in that far end bay.
hmm,
It wasn't built high enough or deep enough to
So what is the,
fit anything else in.
so the benefit is that you would be able to buy more standardized trucks going forward that would fit in that bay versus it just always having to buy a custom built one?
yeah, it has to be done, apparently.
Another question, have you given thoughts how much longer you could get, gonna get that life out of that building that was what, built in the 60s?
Cinder block building.
Yeah,
Should be, that should last for a long time, shouldn't it?
Sure. I mean, I
mean-
don't know how much, I mean, I don't know what the useful life of that type of construction is, but
I mean, we're talking about possibly putting a second story on for apartments at some point,
it was something I'd
discuss.
thrown out as a consideration. And so when they looked at the cost of what would the cost be and kind of like a concept to extend that one bay, we had them consider what the estimated cost would be to frame up a second floor. And just make sure that as they're looking at the extension, that you get into the roof and how you extend it, that we're not gonna rule ourselves out from the ability to do that with the design we commit to. And I think that I don't want to say what I thought that number was without looking at it. But
But-
they gave us a cost estimate to frame out a second floor.
But that would, so we would be led to assume that the building is in good shape, is what I'm
Mm.
trying to point out, like that,
well,
that's,
yeah, assuming. but-
that we wouldn't have to replace the entire building.
Are you
But it's
suggesting there's
concrete.
concern?
Well, nothing lasts forever, so. I don't know if you just might have just run it by Woodard and Curran, just say, by the way, we have this block building that was put up
Mhm.
in the early to mid 60s. Are there any concerns like the deteriorating of the cement between the blocks or something? I mean, it'd be too bad to dump 100,000 into putting a bay and then find out 5 years from now,
You gotta
there's
demolish the
some
whole thing.
defect that you,
Right.
but I'm just throwing it out. just-
No, it's worth
They did come look
investigating.
at the building, right? When
They-
did
I did
the-
not ask them that question.
But they have seen,
They
The
have, but
bylaw.
I don't think that they went specifically inspecting the
no,
cinder blocks. I mean, they were looking at the extension of that front bay and the roof
Right.
support. And we did not ask.
I mean,
them.
it's something we should probably address if, as you said, it was built in the mid to late 60s, and you're approaching 60 years old. I mean, it's not old, but it could use some tender loving care maybe.
And wasn't there some issue, like one of the columns or something in the front? Seems like I remember it wasn't attached to anything or something.
Well, yeah,
Sitting there.
you remember, that they left the door open on the side of the truck, right? Either coming in or coming out.
they
and it
rebuilt
knocked
one of
down
the
a-
columns.
Yeah, it knocked something down.
Somebody ran and somebody got hit with one of the trucks or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
If
it get
it's-
hit, and then it get hit very hard.
If it's
Right,
helpful, just a quick internet search suggests that a concrete block wall can last in a home over 100 years, and that a cinder block wall can last over 75 years. That's helpful.
75, so
We're talking though in the next 15, 20 years.
Well,
potentially.
We should just ask them to assess the quality of the building and then go from there.
Right.
Yeah, if it's an
We
easy,
can- we can sit around and hypothesize about the state of that building all night if we wanted to.
Yeah, I would think that Woodard and Kern would be able to give us a reasonable life expectancy on that.
so working on the assumption that they tell us the building is fine and you be good to go for 15, 20 more years. What do folks think about?
That warrant 100 and
Do we want to build the extension or do we want to just get a custom built new fire engine that lasts 30 years and then 30 years from now you have to get another custom, well, probably 30 years you have to have a new building, but.
I would tell people 30 years from now, we're worried about 30 years. from
Well,
now.
yes.
Like,
Yes.
even you and I will be old men.
don't go
Don't say
there,
my
Eric.
truck,
Don't go there. Well, I don't know.
It doesn't sound like we can put off. We can get by maybe one more year with the engine 4, is that right? Hopefully. I mean,
And-
hopefully we don't typically have to use them that much, right?
We were running down the scenarios of, getting another truck last spring when they came out and did pump testing on it, and
Right, because they had to find some parts that were
yeah,
hard to come by, right?
yeah. And the guy that was working on, so I know a place where we can get a 30 something, whatever the replacement truck would be for like 10 grand. I said, we might need to put a hold on that if you can't find this part, because we'll have to park it at Public Works Garage, I guess. We were at that point where we were starting to figure out, like, okay, what do you do? I mean, the forestry truck might be something you could get by short term, potentially, especially in the wintertime without, but you need that. We don't have mutual aid coming in quick, so you need to have an engine, that engine.
I guess I'm kind of tempted though, that, not being a mechanic, try to get another year out of it. And if you get yourself in just a bad enough mess that you have to wait for mutual aid or not, having one more new engine isn't probably gonna be the thing that saved you. It's probably a massive,
Right, so the proposal is to wait another year on the truck,
Yeah. the
but
truck.
it's also assuming that we're doing something with the building.
Right.
Or making a decision on whether you're doing something with the
So
building or
we're
it's a
gonna-
custom truck.
That's what I'm trying to, how do we feel as a board, as a committee?
I
Do we
would,
want to go forward with this proposal of extending the bay so that then you
Mhm.
can buy a used, which will be cheaper in theory, but you might not get as many years out of it as you would a brand new one, even if it's custom built.
That is the next thing you're running into, that you're not gonna get as long out of a used truck as a
Right.
30-year truck.
That's what I'm saying. So which, because if you extend the bay, you would assume that that's gonna fit pretty much anything going forward. But you are
Yeah.
gonna run into having to buy one sooner than if you bought a custom built one.
and I would say your 30-year lifespan might be on the low end. After all, here we are putting off another year on a 37-year-old vehicle.
So can you guys hear me? This is Bill.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
yes,
Couple of things. That original building may have been built, in the late 60s, but there's a lot of other additions to that are way newer than that. I mean, the second floor and Mark's office and the new bay for the double bay for the ambulance, that's all new. And was that within the last 10 years, 8 or 10 years?
yeah.
10 or so, yeah.
And the other thing is that I don't think that's a cinder block building. That's a cement block building. Cinder block, I don't know anybody uses cinder blocks anymore. That's just an old name like Scotch tape that somebody attached to the original blocks that were built.
Good point.
So you think it would have much more life in it than,
That building? Oh, yeah, I think it would have a lot more life.
so do you have a position on purchasing a brand new custom built fire truck or adding the extension and buying a used one that will fit the new bay?
I would go for the extension and buying a used engine when we
Okay.
have to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I kind of can, it's making more sense to me to think if you did that and bought the used engine, then years, how many of a years that lasts, your bay's gonna be enlarged, you're not gonna have to buy another special made fire engine. You'll
Right.
be able to have the bay will be built, you'll be able to put in there another truck.
Well,
And-
the other thing you have to consider is we have other trucks that are gonna, that's not the only one we're gonna have to replace soon, right? Do I have that?
It's not, but the space inside the garage where the other
The other bays.
two
are
engines are
longer.
parked is fine. You can find stock vehicles to fit those ones.
I'm just trying to, if you could stagger when you're replacing vehicles, you're not doing 2 in 1 year.
He
or
does.
2 in
Yeah,
back-to-back years.
Yeah, with the 4 plus the pickup truck, I mean, Mark's kind of got I forget what it was, like a 7.5 year. You kind of had a plan kind of laid out for the replacement. When you buy a used one, you kind of cut into that plan.
That's
but-
what I mean. So
Yeah, I mean, it's been, when did we buy that last one? We bought the utility we bought through 3 years ago, I think, 2
Yeah.
years ago.
And
And one before that was 2000.
it was
14?
the 2014 fiscal year. I was brand new on the board. Bought that for $175,000 from down south somewhere. It's a 2001, if I remember correctly.
So we're
God sakes, Eric.
8 years removed from buying the last one.
but
so
that
we're
one
still
wasn't
roughly on
new.
it.
It was
No,
used.
that was a used vehicle. That was
Yeah.
at that point in time,
I
like
do remember that.
12.
So have we purchased a brand new fire engine
Mm.
It's
recently?
probably not since this
Not
truck.
recently.
No, we have not bought.
Then
That was the last
before.
time we
Since the
bought it.
85?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we promised we
Yeah,
bought.
Yeah, I
two.
think,
For that, the newest one was a 58 and the other one was like a 40 something.
So we've done pretty well buying used fire trucks, so it
Mhm.
seems like,
You know,
Okay.
they don't get a lot of use.
yes, we all. yes, we
But,
don't
you know,
want to
I
get
mean,
one.
they don't have, it's not, this is not like these are engines responding in New York City, several times a day. They're
Right.
leaving the garage.
Right. All right, well. I think we're in agreement then. I mean, does extending the bay, that would, I assume, increase the potential living space that we could possibly put on a second floor, or does that not matter? Does it factor in at
No,
all?
it's all in front of that gutter line. So I mean, you're not gonna.
Okay, so that doesn't really matter
much.
either way. All right. Okay, I think we're all in agreement then that we would go with this option, so.
John's coming back.
Was there any value in getting rid of engine 4?
You don't know. You have not shopped it yet.
$1,000 maybe. Someone scrap, I don't. Like,
The
It's still going the 4th of July parade.
That's true, then you need less wear and tear on the other ones.
the budget for the building as presented, again, it doesn't carry any wages. All of the custodial wages is borne on this building's account. So this budget is presented, it's down 13% or
So-
$4,000.
Which is good, but improvements, that's actually increasing, but we haven't really spent hardly anything the last few years on
It's a
improvements.
matter of having
Having
labor
the-
lined up to get it done.
Okay,
Yeah,
All right.
it's still the need. I mean, I think we had created the reserve for the building, some of the buildings a couple years ago. And so the intention is that the work that's not getting done that particular year, at least the money could be considered to go into the reserve, and it still needs to happen. I mean, there's still siding that hadn't gotten on that addition 10, 12 years ago.
okay.
So I mean, that building, we're really good at kind of getting stuff started, and you know, it's never technically been finished. I think there's still like a $1,400.
So, so we can finish it, and that'll give us an extra 30 years, right? Start right over with how good it is. No new.
On the unfinished building's gonna break on property taxes.
On the improvements. On the improvements, it's $4,000 estimated to finish, I mean, our estimate to finish the siding and painting for that addition. We still have the siding, I think, for most of it, but we still gotta get it up in the peak.
So it's just finding the time or someone to
Or the
do it.
laborer to
The
do
labor,
it,
right.
yeah. I
Okay.
think a lot of that addition, if I'm not mistaken, was a lot of volunteer time.
Yeah,
Yeah, seemed like it was.
There's some gutters and that never got finished or need to be repaired, and then just general maintenance for the facility.
okay. All right. Any other questions on the public safety building?
One more.
All right, we will move on to 5E transfer station, which is another big one.
Necessary.
Yep. So are we in a place where we can replace the sticker system with with bags?
We haven't made the switch yet. I've had some colleagues just share that they've had a hard time finding bags
Okay.
at those quantities they had to buy.
Okay.
We haven't fully committed at this point on our side, on our implementation side yet,
Is that because of COVID or just in general?
just in general.
So that could be an issue. Does the, where our waste goes? Do they have any, are they able to supply things like that?
I can ask them, I can. I'll have to ask them, I don't usually buying through just a wholesaler or
Right.
supplier, but I can ask.
Yeah. Eco-Maine,
That's the recycle.
That's
it's
recycling.
recycler.
But
What?
they, maybe through them, maybe they spend the old plastic and make bags out of them.
They should.
Anyway,
One of the
just a
big considerations and it's not reflected in the operating budget as presented, but one of the big considerations highlighted as goals is to consider the possibility of replacing the current Bobcat with a new one. Kenny's gotten some pricing on it. They're surprisingly more expensive than they were in 2012, I think it was when we bought that one.
Shocker.
We're looking at it, something that does get used quite a bit up there, and it's something that I think looking long-term in the future, even with the current one, but certainly with another one, is to find ways to utilize it potentially more than just at that location. There might be applications where Public Works would find that piece of equipment useful, and to kind of find, more value for it than perhaps, again, for just one department. We talked about possibly getting it with tracks on it instead of, he was pricing out both of them, but possibly with tracks instead of wheels. He has challenges with wheels. You can get kind of the softer rubber tires, but then we run into issues with picking up nails and whatnot from the burn pile, which is where it spends a lot of time. You can go and get the hard surface tires, kind of more of a hard plastic, but then in the wintertime, when you're trying to push snow, you don't have any traction.
Mm,
Right.
Going with something like a track, you're not going to get nails. We might have to deal with the track if it were to fall off or wear out and replace it just to do a tire, but you're going to have that traction. So he was pricing out, wheeled and tracked options. They are a little bit more to get tracked, but
Yeah.
How many hours on that?
oh, I don't know.
Would we keep the current one?
No,
mean,
it would be a
It
trade-in.
would be a trade-in.
Yeah.
So that's the price with the trade-in.
That was, when I put these together, my estimated cost, just looking online. And so he's gotten a price from the dealer. It would probably be a little bit less than that with the trade-in, I think, based on what I saw, but we were still waiting. We had to send, last time I talked to him, we had to send him pictures of the current one and some of the information, like where Eric was asking for hours and whatnot. What he's seeing is it's starting to just be one of these pieces of equipment that you're spending more and more time fixing and keeping in good condition. It's still a serviceable piece of equipment, but there's only so much we can do in-house, and you got to start bringing out the repair folks. It starts to nickel and dime.
How much do we spend on for repairs?
I can't give you what it is through the most recent warrant article, but I'll tell you generally what we spend on repairs for equipment up there. Through December, we hadn't spent anything for repairs through December up there.
In
I'd
fiscal
have
year
to-
21, we spent almost $4,400.
Right, that's for
For
both.
that or
That's for both pieces of equipment.
Both
so
pieces of equipment.
I don't think I have it broken down. I mean, I can go back through all the invoices we've had for the last few years and pull out the ones for the Bobcat specifically, but we don't have a system up there tracking it specifically for that piece of it.
also, you use it a lot less than what you did before. Now that you got the recycling going single sort, because you used it on a regular basis to compact the cardboard into the trailer. You're also using it as forklift when you ship the recyclables, which are now all going in the trailer. So you're actually using it a lot less.
We're also increased the use by handling compost in the last few years. Not that it's equal to what it was with that. but-
That's,
but-
yeah, it's almost non-use.
This is Bill again. I would question, I would look really hard at this. I mean, it seems to me that is a good piece of equipment and it's got a lot of attachments. The question is, can those attachments be put on a new machine? And why do we need a new machine?
Well, the
Sort
main,
of The
the main-
repair amounts don't show that we need it.
well, it's not, I'm not saying we get it. I'm not saying yes or no. I think the thought is that we're starting to spend more time on keeping it in working order than we actually get to use it, or
Oh, just more time.
more time
It's
on
not-
it.
it's not
And
that it's
that's
more
only
than
gonna
we are.
increase as you use it more and it gets older. So it's something we're gonna have to consider moving forward.
I mean, I'm kind of looking at it as a point where, I don't know that we're at kind of that critical point, but it still has a lot of value as a trade-in.
Mhm.
So I guess, fundamentally, do we want to talk about, how long do we keep the equipment? Do we try and trade it? It's like you do with your own cars. I mean, there's a point where you just say, I've gone past the point where I'm going to get a good trade-in value. I might as well just keep it until it's done.
Right.
And so without knowing what they're estimating the trade-in value, it's hard to know, but.
Yeah.
um,
Well,
you
the
know.
trade-in value must have gone up if the cost of a new one went up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful
But
you're looking at 15 or 20 grand, but I don't know.
But I mean, I think if you guys are looking for money in the budget for this year, I
Right.
would certainly look at that for, maybe we should get the information on the hours, how much it's actually costing us. And we should maybe use this to help this year's budget.
Yep.
Set it back if you're looking for things that you could probably get by,
Yeah.
You're budgeting a couple $1,000s with skid steer maintenance. It includes repairs too, right? That's just it. I mean, that's not,
That's not,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not-
as
that's-
opposed to shelling out 80 grand for,
Mhm.
well, if you got
Or-
24, even
Yeah.
60, that's still.
That's a lot of money.
I agree. I'm
Well,
not
it
saying
is a lot of money.
And
and
we
at some
don't, we don't know how
point,
much,
we'll have to-
we don't know how much this one's being used. It would be good to get Kenny or Luther to give us an estimate on how many hours that thing gets used a week.
Yeah,
I will ask and let you know what that is.
yeah, more information would help us make a better decision. I agree.
If we just hour meter and see how old it is, and then also knowing if you're using it less too, I mean, once again. I mean, then that's gonna save you about wanting a trailer, hopefully about transporting,
I still want a trailer to transport if we're gonna use it outside of the department.
like for what?
It depends what we can get for attachments, but we have to do street sweeping every year, and there's certain times of the year it would be nice to be able to power broom things, and you could
Mhm.
potentially do that. I mean, there's so many ways that this piece of equipment with the right attachments could make the work we do more efficient, and not only once a year. And I think you can find more value in that piece of equipment than just having it in that one department's parking lot. It's something that trying to look at the needs, the big picture needs between both departments and kind of see this as where can it be traded off. We can get into and try and figure out how you want us to measure the value and offsetting the cost of a trailer to move it around, but trying to put forward a good plan to utilize equipment and not just have it siloed in one department.
Well, the trailer wouldn't just be for the skid steer, right? You could use it for
Could
other
use it for other
things.
things,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
I
Well,
mean, it's gonna be, if we take over the mowing, it's gonna be a complete pain in the ass for whoever's got to mow. Trying to dual use that 20-foot trailer, trying to maneuver around
yeah, oh, yeah.
right.
cemeteries and everything else, so I
Right.
think that thing, dual use. But we may not even get to that point. but-
It doesn't sound like this year we're going to do the in-house mowing, but yeah,
But another thing, having bought attachments for the backhoe that didn't work out, spent 14,000, used it twice and it just sat, I don't know if we still got it, if it finally got junked. You can rent these attachments.
mhm.
One of the things we found out the brush on the backhoe would have worked good if we had nice smooth areas we're doing. So my recommendations were try to at least rent
The
the
piece first.
attachment
Yep.
and see if it does work before you end up spending a bunch of money and then you've got attachment. I mean, we bought a snow blower with the original Bobcat. Never used it. Sidewalks were too narrow except for Main Street. So we finally sold it off. So just thinking, try renting to make sure it works for what you want it instead of purchasing something and saying, oh, damn, we didn't think about that.
Yeah,
That was the
You know.
proposal we put forward starting last year to start trying to rent some stuff. Some stuff was approved in concept and some stuff wasn't, but that was, what we had thought was a good idea was to try and rent some of it to try it first.
So Andy, are there any other pieces of equipment that get shared between the transfer station and Public Works?
The backhoe would be the only other real piece of equipment they have that would leave the facility there. We do use the backhoe. We use the backhoe from the transfer station this year to help load salt and sand, so there could be one tractor downtown and one tractor to load.
Yeah, but I mean, all I see are problems with trying to share this small piece of equipment. You got some attachments that are only used at the transfer station. You have like the turn thing and the crusher and such. And then you have some other things like a broom and other attachments that are going to be up at the new Public Works Department. And so you got to have the machine to hook onto that in order to load it. I see a lot of running around. And so I'm really suspicious of trying to share that piece of equipment with two different departments. I see extra pickups and extra trailers and a lot of wasted time. Sorry.
You don't have to be sorry, Bill.
Now, can the Public Works crew, hate to say this, but can they fit? Can the Bobcat and operate it?
I can entertain that question, Eric.
Okay, well, that was brought up to me by a town employee, so I'm just relaying it. I've operated it. It's a tight space. I'm just-
No one can see my, I don't. want to-
All right, well, let's move on to,
And maybe the more correct way of question would be, we talk about this sharing of responsibility for equipment between the two departments and, town crew doing this and that. But in needing to spend money so that can happen, I guess a bigger question would be, if it doesn't happen, if we set an expectation for that work to be done and it doesn't happen, what are the very real, set up very real consequences of what happens if those goals aren't met?
Or can I frame my question a little different? Does anyone working for Public Works have experience using the Bobcat skid steer?
Can't answer that question at the moment.
It's a complicated little piece of equipment. It's not a little steering wheel you turn.
It's not
And with
something I
time and
want-
practice, we can learn how to operate most things.
I
but-
would think, yeah, that to me would not be a huge concern because you gotta, any piece of equipment, you gotta learn how to use it. Potentially.
So then you have a licensing for different pieces of equipment?
Can you clarify the question, Bill?
Well, no, I remember in my business, if somebody was to get on a forklift, they had to have a license to do that. And they had
There's
to be
training
trained.
there's training requirements to and certificates, to be trained to operate things like forklifts in particular, even pallet jacks. The Bobcat, to my knowledge, there might be certain particular tasks you might need to have some special certification or extra training on, but generally to use the Bobcat, I'm not currently familiar with any sort of long certificate program you got to go through. There might be an in-house training.
Well, I'm
Certainly.
just talking, this was the company-wide licensing. It wasn't, it was through our insurance company and, because if somebody just leaps on a piece of equipment to move something and they damage it, then, who's got the responsibility? And I see a lot of that being passed back and forth between two different departments if something gets damaged.
Perhaps it'd be good
am
to, perhaps
concerned
it'd be good to know.
Okay.
I was gonna say, perhaps it'd be good to know that that is a goal of ours, is to create an in-house training program for our equipment.
Yeah. And you can tell that it's getting close to dinner time as I get uglier and uglier.
Should have another scotch, Bill.
I haven't had
You
any
want-
yet.
Do we want to talk about the transfer station operating budget? 'Cause I don't think we've really touched on the operating budget other than the $2,500 equipment repair line.
How about the yard truck? That's what we're talking about.
The what truck?
The yard truck.
Yard truck. It's not proposed, but we can talk about it as it was kind of on the long term.
It's not proposed, it's not-
No, I mean, Kenny had discussed or mentioned before is there value in having a used yard truck to be able to move equipment, the containers around? I think in the last year or two, we've been able to make that accommodate, work well with the frequency at which other trucks are coming, and they're able to move the containers around as we need them between boats without issue. So I don't think there's a need, should we ever get to the point where we want to haul our own containers to the mainland. You might entertain that as a possibility. If I know a few years ago, the cost to have a company come and take our container, is pushing $800 every time they come. So at some point you might look at that and say, is that something we can do with an employee ourselves for that cost or cheaper? I don't think we're there yet, but I'm just at some point that might get there.
Yeah, if they go much higher, which I imagine they will at some point. But that is, if you do that, some employees, most of their, probably their whole day, right, going over back.
would be.
Granted, they
It
can
would be.
bring something back with them.
You'd also have a CDL licensed driver that, in the wintertime when you're not hauling as much waste, you've got a CDL driver that could help with the plowing and the needs we have and the challenges we have finding
How many
drivers there.
CDL drivers do we have now?
Two
Two.
in-house.
Okay.
Two more working on.
Okay, well, good.
What is special waste?
That would include e-waste, oils and paints, light bulbs, batteries.
Do we collect enough money to cover the cost of that?
Doubtful, but
Hmm.
something we can look at.
Well, I know in the goals here, price increase, we've talked about it at other meetings before the budget season. I mean, I think it's probably time. I would actually like to see a seasonal rate like they do with the ferry boat. Charge more in the summer months and you charge less in the winter months.
Careful, you'll get people, you'll get some people that will hoard their garbage.
I'll take it
Are
back
those the
home
same
with
people that go when it's closed and throw it away and not pay for it? I mean, that's right. That's why the ferry has their seasonal rates, because there's more traffic in the summer.
Well,
and
if we get
fall.
bags, if we switch to the bag system,
You could have different colored bags
Then-
for one part of the season and one part for the other.
I think we
Can't
would
even
see,
get one color, let alone two colors.
This
I
is all
think we
in
would see an
theory.
increase in revenue with the bags personally. That's my personal feeling, but
Because I mean, if, like this special waste, if you're not tracking it, once again, the household waste is subsidizing this, where there used to be a charge per pound for paint and all, so much the lengths of the bulbs and stuff.
Right.
So this is kind of like a black hole. You're paying this, but then because you're not inventorying to know if this waste is paying for itself, and it should, I would think, be the goal that the people bringing in the special waste
We're
are
paying for it.
paying for the special waste,
Right.
not grandma who's bringing up 1 or 2 white bags of garbage, paying more because it's subsidizing that's not being charged enough. for.
wasn't that part of the plan, was to have that all itemized?
It is all itemized. I told Eric I couldn't tell him what the number today that it is paying for itself, but it is itemized, and whatever is collected gets put into the appropriate category. So we can go and look and see what is collected and
Mhm.
what the costs are. I don't think it's enough generated on revenue to cover the cost, but it is itemized. We can go and look and see what waste sources generated what revenue. It is a great
So
system.
I got a question. what is supposed to go into the big compactor that Luther oversees? Are those all just bags with a Vinalhaven sticker on them?
It's a municipal solid waste, so I mean, whatever would qualify as that. I mean, ideally, they have bags when people throw stuff away. Some people come up with everything loose in the back of a truck. Some people come up with just 35, 50-gallon garbage containers and throw them in. You know, if the town wants to set a hard, firm policy on bags only, I mean, we can try and find a way to implement that and turn people away that don't come with bags. And I mean, that's part of the challenge is, you know, if we were to stand up there for the better part of a day or a few hours a day, we'd get a better sense what they go through and, you know, how you might propose handling that.
Right.
Be a great exercise if folks are interested in figuring out ways to improve things there.
I think, you know, part of some of the problems also gonna be people putting stuff in their solid, you know, MSW that doesn't really belong there.
Mhm.
Or could be, and not so much doesn't belong there, could be diverted elsewhere.
Well, we could charge a premium if we want for people throwing cardboard away or other recyclables instead of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you
it's
could look
tough
at it
for
a
us.
bunch of different ways, but I think before in this meeting or around this table, we decide how some of those particular things get modified, it would be worth perhaps spending a few hours and kind of auditing it. And
How long is the loop on the cameras? I mean, instead of standing there, you could look at what you've already got. And that might tell you a more accurate, honest thing as opposed to selectmen standing up there watching, you know.
Who said it's selectmen?
I thought he was referring to- Damn it, I used to do that, have to do that stuff, Eric.
That sounds like a budget committee task.
Bill would be great.
So is there a camera pointed at that compactor?
Yes.
I think so, but I can't remember where exactly the frames or the ones that are still working are pointing exactly.
The
Yeah.
ones that are still working.
Yeah, I think there's one or two that might be down. But
Well, that's not helpful.
it's not, no, you're right. I think we were waiting for a clear, where do we go with the replacement of the wall and the layout before investing the money and time to have someone chase and dig up lines that are buried and find a way to make the camera work. And that was, you know, what Kenny and I talked about anyways.
Yeah.
We thought the improvement was going to be happening before summer, and so we thought, you know, that would be an adequate time to wait, but we can certainly look at having someone come out and dig those lines up to fix them if we want. We were not sure why it's failed, but I think it might
That's what I
have something to
mean.
do with the
Is it-
line. We've done everything we can do in-house to try and troubleshoot it.
It's not it's not just the cameras. Then.
Yeah, we're not 100%. It's just, again, we've gone as far as we can in-house to figure it out and troubleshoot it.
Is that Seacoast?
Can be anyone, I think at this point, they probably, I'm assuming were the ones that installed that. But I can't remember.
So do we own the system?
Yeah.
What about junk cars? They seem to be piling up pretty good.
They sure do.
Yes, so.
No way to get rid of them.
We can, I guess I just want to make, we can, yeah. I mean, we got to find a way to get rid of them. We're having a challenge, finding places on the mainland that would take them and someone to haul them in an economical way. Some of the, you know, something Kenny and now Millie are working on.
People don't take junk cars and
Yeah, there's fewer and fewer
really.
I think the
further
price
away.
is- Price is down and just
Yep.
less places taking it and.
And we can stop taking them all together. I mean, we might have to stop taking them all together here. We kind of sort of have for the moment till we can get
There's
rid of
not
them.
much more room. All right, are there any more questions on the transfer station?
This is one of the bigger increases we've looked at tonight.
Yeah,
$40,000, and I'm happy to go through the cost and breakdowns if there's questions.
I mean, estimating it's gonna cost more to throw things away, I mean, I'm not surprised. The insurance, that's again, the difference between the two is 100% and a dependent versus just the current plan, is that right? So that's $18,000 difference.
$6,000 for the capital improvement, which is
It's back here.
the
It's
contractor, right?
it's for trim around the garage door, remove second garage door and replace window. That's the six grand on the capital improvement.
I would like to hear input from the board and budget committee about what the benchmark or what you want us to try and collect for offsetting revenue.
I mean, in a perfect world, we collect every single nickel of for what we take in as for waste. In a perfect, in a perfect world, we pay for all of that, and taxation goes towards maintaining the building, buying a new compactor,
Paying
paying
employees.
wages
Yep.
and benefits. In a perfect world, that would, and that way, it's one of those, what do we call it, pay as you use type systems. At least much more than, which, I see 225 in revenue, and I haven't added up all the between tipping fees, recycling, specialties, all the different categories total individually.
It's over 200. It's like 250 something.
So you're about $25,000 off or so probably.
If
you
get the
if you collect
225,
the revenue.
right.
155 and 108. 263.
63. Yeah.
So $263,000 is what it cost us to get rid of waste.
Okay, well, that in a perfect world, you would collect $263,000 in revenue. In my mind.
So is 225 enough? Is that it's a 25, it's a 12.5% increase. Is that in revenue?
That's great. It's a pay as you use, People have, and maybe that encourages some, composting. I'm certainly
Composting and
not,
recycling.
I'm certainly not doing it, but, that's my wallet that gets hit then.
Is your wallet going to hit enough? Though is the question.
Not
I
every-
have a few, I didn't the Waste Watchers a couple years ago bring up to this board, and we kind of shrugged them off, actually. Well, Donald did anyway. About,
Yeah, you were there. It was you.
but that we raised bag rates. We did it very suddenly, and they said, "Well, you seem to be collecting enough revenue from bag revenue. You're losing money on your demo and
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was the scale.
special, the special waste, and that's really where we're not
collecting enough.
I don't know if that's still the case. That was a couple years ago, but
Well, we haven't made any changes.
Has to be the same, 'cause we haven't. done
because
anything
we
different.
Right, that's what I mean.
the big question has been, how do we fairly charge for demo? At least, that seems,
Well, and to set the fees in a way so that, and without a scale, you're kind of left to eyeball volume.
yeah,
and
there
guess
you go.
weight.
That's
So, I would really, really encourage folks to, take time to go up and talk with them, the guys that work up there, and watch a few transactions and try and look at some of these bigger trucks that come in with a full load of things and guess, when you got someone who comes up, I remember the example a few years ago, someone came up with a whole bunch of spent plastic bags, whether they were doing fertilizer or whatever it was, but it was a large bulk load of just plastic bags, very compactable and doesn't weigh very much. And when we changed the fee, it was like, well, it's $100, truckload. And the next person comes in with a truckload of shingles. We know that weighs close to a ton. They
Right.
got to pay $100, but all those shingles just flatten the bags that just got put in. So, when you're the attendant and the staff up there working, that's the challenge they get put in, because we don't have scales, and it's really expensive to put a scale in.
yeah.
But again, that's the reality they're faced with. And that might be more of a less common perhaps, but I wouldn't say it's not common.
People bring up trap waste this time of
Right.
year, they're working in the shop and getting rid of,
It should be a little more straightforward with bags. Presumably we would encourage and want everyone to bring their trash up in a bag, so it's easy to say that's one small bag or one big bag, but not throw it loose.
Eric?
Well, one thing you're saving on, it might surprise you in the run of a year, is by moving the swap shop, you're not having all the junk
That's
And
true.
believe me, there was a lot of
Oh, yeah.
stuff
A
that
lot
they
of
were
junk.
throwing in that demo trailer that you never.
They estimated
Got us
three,
in.
they estimated 3 to 4 trailers a year in the swap shop.
And per trailer, you know, how much,
Depends how much is in it, but I mean, you're talking,
Well, it's $800 to come over and get it, right?
yeah.
So that's
um,
$2,400 right just on that.
Right.
we running, I think we're like close to 180 a ton, and those things on average have about 8 tons.
Yeah, so that's a substantial amount right there.
Mhm.
yeah, well, so, you know.
It helps.
So that gets, you know, closer, that gets you significantly closer. Right off the bat.
In other places, I think we can look at, I mean, we had an example just the other day where we had someone tear a house down and bring it up. And I mean,
Like
you know,
that
the amount of, I don't know what the overall fee was, but I mean, it's considerably less to put stuff on the burn pile than it is to throw in the demo container. You know, when you tear a house down, you're talking 4, 5, 6, maybe more containers and trying to get
Okay.
those on the boat yourself. And,
Right.
you know, so it's certainly cheaper to do it that way. It takes more time for them to strip it down and only have
Separate and
mostly,
yeah, only,
you know, have what's
hopefully-
allowed to be burnt.
Yeah, hopefully only.
But, you know, we're trying to put that through our small facility, you know, and they've got to communicate and coordinate that, but to do it in the time frame that a contractor and property owner wants it done in, and to balance that with the employee hours and expectations and the space we have, it can be challenging while you're still keeping everything else going.
Right.
I think Ken did a really good job at, I think, you know, making that work recently, but that did raise some questions about how do we work with that within our small, I mean, anywhere else without the island factor. I mean, you're bringing that right to your site, container.
right,
You're not involved, the town's not involved anywhere else.
Right.
right.
What have you done about that boat and collected money for that?
Money's been collected for the big boat.
You know, you got enough to cover the cost.
I don't know. We know we did get some money. I don't know what the cost is until they get time spent on it to break it down and put it in the appropriate container and get rid of it.
So you're gonna keep track of that just to see how well you did.
You can ask for it to be kept track of.
I mean, once again, that'd be an interesting thing to know.
It would be, there's a lot, yeah, there'd be a lot of interesting data points, I think, because, you know, we've got a lot of handling of, you know, for example, we have 50 oil barrels up there now. And we had to buy a special saw to cut into them to make sure they're drained. You can't put them in the metal pile in the container until we can prove they're drained. You don't want to throw them, have the employee put them on top of the burn pile and burn them, because one, you're not supposed to, but it's also dangerous. But you got to cut them open, pump it out, then you can throw it in the containers. I mean, each of those barrels, I mean, you're probably talking a better part of half an hour anyways to get into them. You know, by the time you factor in the employee cost and all that, are we making our money on? We breaking even on
Right.
taking those oil barrels? Do we put the expectation on, you know, whoever's bringing to say, you need to have it cut open and prove that it's empty? If you bring a vehicle up, you need to prove that it's dry. There's no fluids left in it.
Yes, I think we
Um,
should. I mean, that shouldn't be on the town to do. The
Mm.
person throwing it away should have to do that,
That's
yes.
right.
But again, that's really putting it back on our employees to do that, which I don't know if, I know it's part of the job description, I guess, but again, like, there's gonna be pushback from certain folks, and I don't know. And to deal with,
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, less chance of someone going off in the boonies and tossing their old oil barrel off in the woods and then draining into the stream or whatever. So I think it's almost one of them things that you probably are better off.
That's
handling
true.
In-house.
That's
but then
true,
Make
yeah.
sure you charge for the barrel reflects the time for the employee, the cost of the blades. I think,
yeah, all
you
right,
know,
that's,
From my experience.
no, you're right. If it's gonna be properly disposed of, fine, then we'll just have to charge you more for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think with this, if, you know, similar to the code enforcement's, you know, budget, you know, if you kind of give me a sense of, you know, if knowing that it's gonna, as budgeted, cost approximately $260,000 to get rid of the waste that comes in. You know, what percentage of, or how much of that do you want to try and cover, recoup through fees? You know, and then we can kind of work with Kenny and Millie to come up with a fee schedule that can try and capture that.
I've
So just give us a target to try and hit, and
100%.
we're at 200,000 budgeted for this year, so going to 263 might be a bit of a stretch in 1 year to implement those fees to capture that.
Oh, the 225 revenue isn't all from
This current
All-
fiscal
all-
year,
yeah.
this current fiscal year, we budgeted $200,000. So the 225 is the proposed increase I've put forward. We have to adjust fees to get 225,000, but you're still almost $40,000 short for what the cost is expected to be to get rid of waste.
Continue to increase fees.
Bill, you okay?
Well, I'm okay, but I need to get off the call.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Bill.
Sorry. I can't, my stamina isn't what it used to be.
It's all right.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, good job.
All right. Do we want to discuss anything else on the transfer station tonight?
No, other than my initial guess would be to say, no new skid steer this year.
And to say what, Eric?
No
No.
new skid steer
Oh.
this year. Say that 5
I'm-
times. but-
We'll circle back on that, but yeah, it's gonna be a challenge to find the money to get that. I understand that it's probably gonna be a need, but it's gonna be a challenge this year.
That'll be on the wish list.
I guess my last question, the 225, your estimate there, that is with the current fee rate. No, it's not.
We have to adjust the fees to get to 225. I
Well-
don't even know if we're gonna get 200 this year.
What would we adjust? It's what, $2 for a bag right now?
I think you did. I wouldn't dare try and tell you what the fees for certain things would go. We'd have to dive in and look at, what are we collecting for certain waste streams? What is the cost for certain waste streams, and come back with a proposal
All right, let's,
trying to look at, where can we make it? I mean, the bag, the solid waste by bag is the easiest way to collect the fee.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about, do you want the special waste to capture the full cost of what it costs to get rid of it? Do you want what do you do with the recycling at $33,000 an estimated cost? I mean, which waste stream will absorb that, or do you want to charge fees for recycling?
I mean, one reason we don't capture full is we are more open than most communities. Most communities only allow you to bring it in certain times of the year, and when they're all set up and whatever.
That's right.
Most places do not allow you to bring
the special
the
waste.
special waste in any day you want or whatever. So
That's
I
right.
mean,
Maybe, all right,
That's a good thought.
no, that is a good thought. Everything's on the table, but we are gonna have to address the fees. It's gonna have to go up so that people will start being a little more conscious of what they're bringing up there and how much it's gonna cost and all that, because I would be surprised if we're getting enough on our demo and our special, because demo's the,
Demo and solid waste are combined
They're
with the,
combined,
you'll
okay.
find them under tip fees and
Okay.
solid waste costs.
yeah.
The tip fees are, just that, and the solid waste cost is covering the transportation and
But we'll need a little more information before we.
the ferry ticket and transportation to haul it. So 2023, I was off by a fair amount. So 2022 was $844 every time that truck comes, and in 2023, it's projected to go to $873 every time the truck comes.
All right.
That's what I was saying. At some point, I tried to look at some of those numbers before. I mean, at some point, it's interesting to just see what the cost is to have a truck if you're going to figure out how many years you can get out of it. What would the employee cost be to drive it? I mean, you can run the numbers and look at it, right? I mean, and then you've got, what does that compare to at that 873 for 105 trips a year, plus the
that's-
recyclable trips.
They're bringing over an empty truck and taking back a full one, where we
Right.
could bring a full truck back over. Okay, anyway, all right.
I mean, at some point on paper, you can just look at it and say, it might be a break even, it might actually be cheaper. I mean, I don't know that we're there
Like,
quite
so
yet.
much
but-
easier, we just threw her on the pile and set it on fire every once in a while.
good old days.
I will barely remember them. They were happy times.
All right,
I think you're gonna see a lot higher prices in the next few years. It just.
yeah, it's
There's a
not gonna go
surcharge.
down.
There's a surcharge proposed in this year's legislature. I don't know if it's passed yet or not, but or failed, but a $5 surcharge per ton for solid waste and a $10 surcharge per ton for.
Whatever
demo.
happened to the proposal or the legislation on charging the companies for all the shipping?
Mm.
They
containers?
did.
that did go through, so
They
are we
did,
are
but
we
they
gonna get
turned
any of that
around, they
back?
turned around and charged the places that were bringing it to them though.
Oh,
I mean, you know, they're happy to absorb that, but it just gets passed on.
to us, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they, you know, it is what, that's what these other surcharges are. It's like, it's a surcharge against the process, you know, the places that are taking it, but
Yeah,
they're not gonna eat it.
Yeah.
right.
Well, what
They're a
would you-
business.
Yeah. Give a spread and.
All right.
Spread.
Someone's getting more money at the end of the day, but it's,
It's not us.
It ain't me, ain't never been me.
All right, that will conclude the budget workshop portion of this. I think, do we just have Eric left? Thank you, Eric, for sticking it out.
Margaret's on.
And Margaret, thank you. Sorry, I always
Thank you,
forget
guys.
to look at the screen. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Margaret. Wow, it's just mind-boggling.
Some of these, oh, yeah. Let me see,
Um, 7, report of town manager.
I didn't write anything up formally. I mean, the only thing I'll just put out there is, reached out to a couple of you already, but the contract for my position is up in June. A couple of you already that the town will have to think about how you want to proceed after that. At this point, not intending to extend that.
Damn it.
oh, now it's out there.
Look on
I don't have to
Pam's
keep, I
face.
don't have to keep my mouth shut anymore.
So, you know, we gotta kind of think through and look at, you know, how the board wants to proceed with those next steps. I don't, you know, have a definitive timeline on where things stand right now. You know, minimum filling out this contract and whether there's, and how things line up, you know, trying to work through potentially the end of the calendar year if that presents itself and is helpful, but you know, how, looking at your next steps to, last time you did a search, we went through MMA, there's other firms and other places that can help with that search. I can try and reach out to them and get some cost estimates and look at what that.
Is MMA that still, they still charge a fee?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say it was, around eight grand last time.
Is that
I could be off. It
comparable
was a
to
while ago.
a private company?
I'm not certain, but I'll try and do some research on that.
Just curious. I mean, it's- Okay. Well, I had a voicemail today, but I'm playing phone tag with the guy right now, so I will talk to him.
You've been called?
I've been called.
Oh, I have not.
Okay, I can, hopefully I should have more on that for the next meeting.
All right, we have a regular board of select meeting next week.
Next week, we meet
Alright.
next week
Okay,
at 5 o'clock.
And I'll be in New York,
right.
so I'll be remote for that one.
Okay.
We just like
So
COVID
just need to
times.
have help setting up the
I can come down.
computer
and
in here
join,
and
yeah.
I should just be able to stream everything. I'll kind of share everything from my end. But
Yeah,
Just need someone
still
set up
be
in here.
here, but
Yep.
one of us can lock the front door on the way out.
In terms of the budget calendar, you're saying that by the second week of April,
The first and the second weeks, I'm really busy.
first and second.
So the
is-
third week, third, fourth week, I should be fine.
Okay.
And it's just a 5 o'clock meeting is gonna be tough.
Mhm.
So. But let's get through next week. I'm gonna have to leave the first week open at least. Maybe I could do. How's the calendar fall?
I mean, if the warrant wasn't approved until the 19th, I mean, I think our goal is to try and get the first draft. I mean, we're planning on having the audit that third week in April finished by then. With the last kind of deadline for that, it being the first week in May. That gives us roughly 4 weeks to get the town reports turned around, and that's 3 to 4 weeks is usually what it takes. Could be quicker. There's a different company that bought out Good Impressions, so I mean, if we go, they might have a quicker turnaround, I'm not sure.
So we'll be through the full budget and a review next week. Would we be in a position to for us to vote on things the following week, or would we want to do it the second week of April?
I'm guessing I'm gonna need more time potentially. I mean, you're gonna go through the rest of the budget next week presumably. And then you might give us a benchmark to hit and say, now that we've seen the whole presentation, looked at all the proposals, we just gotta find a way to get that tax increase down to X%. Or no more than X%.
I mean, if it's at 7.1 now, if we're going down to 6, that should be somewhat easy.
If that's what we're aiming for, I just don't know if that's what the board is
I don't-
directing us to aim for or
There'll
not.
also be the adjustment when you do the fuel changes too, though.
Right, that's, yeah, you're gonna have
There's
to.
been a bunch of other things, yeah. So I gotta take all those in there.
So we should be voting and finalizing pieces starting the second week. That gives you a full 2 weeks to look at things. All right,
So we'd be scheduled to meet again on the
The
29th and the 12th. I mean, by then, that's 2 weeks in between. We should be able to turn back a proposal and it can be a draft, kind of final budget draft and
but
then.
we would have till the end of the month to finalize it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, our timeline there is just making sure the warrant articles are voted on by the board to go forward for town meetings, so it can be in the town report.
Yep.
And not for that.
All right,
I could wait on that till middle of May, but.
The 12th, I think I can make that work. It's like day 8 of the close, so I'll just make sure I work like through the weekend to get a spot. Yeah, this budget season has been,
The difference between 5 and 6 doesn't particularly matter on that day, that week.
Yeah, we don't
We
have.
no, but if we meet at 5, we get done a little bit earlier, then I just go home, back to work. Either way,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
There's work all day long, it doesn't matter. All right,
So plan on that and see what next week yields. And if you guys can think about between now and next week, some of the things you brought up tonight for the budget and have a better sense of a number that you want us to try and go back and try and hit and ways to reduce parts. I mean,
So final review next week, the 20th. No,
Ninth.
I'm looking at
29th.
April 26th, 29th,
yep,
and then not meet the 5th and
have the regular.
regular
scheduled-
meeting on the 12th.
You have a week off.
Yes,
Oh my goodness.
find something if you want.
It's an
Always
hour.
something.
Oh,
we could come in every day if you really wanted to.
well, we should have.
I'm still partial to try and, I still think that would have been fun to do a full Saturday workshop and just do it all at once.
Like it used to be and have lunch and.
Just do the whole workshop in
All
one
day.
day and then you got the, 6 weeks to figure it out.
Oh, but
Think about it.
You're gonna have to
Sort
have
of stretching it out.
copious amounts of Tito's vodka. And
I was gonna say, my brain is going like this enough from one night, let alone a whole
Couple
day.
hours.
I'm gonna assume there's no reporting members and move we adjourn.
No, hold on, we need to sign the,
Yes, you need to sign the Knox County Sheriff's contract.
do we want to put that after next week?
Excuse me.
There were no changes other than the dates,
Dates and
correct?
names.
That's it.
Just wanna
So
approve it
let's
now.
just get it over with.
I move we sign the contract with Knox County. Sheriff.
Second, all those in favor?
That lines up with calendar.
Whatever. I mean, good to know. I remember that.
We
of
might be
course.
talking about it again in December. It might be next April again, March again.
Now can I say I move we adjourn?
Second. All those in favor? There we go.
Andy, do you need the copy